Next up, long-running actor to mantle the character was British Roger Moore, who is introduced as the new James Bond. This film, Live and Let Die, was filmed in Jamaica. It was directed by Guy Hamilton and released in 1973, even if the producers had already approached Connery years before. Before casting Moore, Steve McQueen and Paul Newman were considered for the role. Even Burt Reynolds was asked, but said that the role should be played by a British guy, and Tony Hopkins was also approached to take on the role and claimed that it was not right for him. John Barry, who had produced the music for prior films, wasn't available, so Paul McCartney from the Beatles was brought in for the Live and Let Die soundtrack with his wife Linda and Wings. This was of course after the breakup with the popular band. It was the first time David Hedison as Felix Leiter showed up. Even Q was not featured in this film. The villains are called banal, and Moore didn't really live up to the legacy that Connery started. BBC even stated that Dr. Kennaga, or Mr. Big, was the worst antagonist of the ensemble of Moore's villains. The humor in this film increased compared to the last one. The McCartneys got an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song. Roger Moore was at this introduction age 45, the oldest of the dudes joining the 007 club. The second film was The Man with the Golden Gun. This film was also directed by Guy Hamilton in 1974 and based on Ian Fleming's novel. A story that was published posthumously in 1965. The film was heavily influenced by Asian martial art with some kung fu scenes during the 1973 energy crisis. Christopher Lee stars as the assassin Francisco Scaramanga, the man with the golden gun. It's said that this character is gay because he cannot whistle, which is ungrounded. Ironically, Lee is the step-cousin of writer Ian Fleming. Lewis Gilbert directed the third film with Roger Moore called The Spy Who Loved Me, a film from 1977. Although the title is from one of Fleming's books, it only borrows the title. Otherwise, it has nothing to do with the story the author wrote about the agent. Barbara Bach, who starred as the Bond girl in this film, was at the time married to the drummer from Beatles, Ringo Starr, whom she had a drug abuse with later. Moonraker was another film that both Gilbert and Moore worked on. This installment in the series has a lot for Star Wars to thank for, as the science fiction frenzy at that time helped this film to gain popularity. It was released in 1979. As the title indicates, it has a space theme and takes Bond to Hugo Drax. Richard Kiel returns as Jaws as well. Bond travels from California to Venice, Rio de Janeiro, Amazon rainforest, and even into outer space. Like so many other villains, Hugo Drax also seeks world domination. Once released, it received mixed reviews, but was praised for the special effects. The studio the series often uses for Moonraker only for visual effects, which is the production built the set in France, making it the largest set in that country, mostly because of the high taxes in Britain in the late 1970s. At this point, it was the highest grossing film of the series until GoldenEye from 1995 stole that. This was Bernard Lee's final performance as the character M, as he died when For Your Eyes Only from 1981 was in pre-production. It was planned that Joss was supposed to be the film's antagonist, but director Gilbert changed his mind after getting mail from children asking why the tall man with the bad teeth couldn't be a goodie. Producer Albert R. Broccolii has said that the title sequence cost more than the whole body of From Russia with Love. Sir Roger Moore has in his autobiography said he has a reticence about guns, complaining about the shooting scene. For this film, it's believed that Moore participated in more than 390 promotional interviews. The production team used real lasers in the film. The shooting of Moonraker was close to shooting down because during a week Moore had a kidney stone. Shirley Bassey returned once more to lend her vocals to the theme song composed by John Barry. Frank Sinatra was considered for doing the music and Kate Bush was also asked, but she said no. The reviewer ranked this film low, mostly because of its absurd plot and the extent of product placement, which has increased with each movie, and the development of Joss as a good guy. After the sci-fi based Moonraker, the next film was far more realistic, and the directors tried to return to the basic of Ian Fleming's work. For Your Eyes Only from 1981 is John Glenn's feature directional debut. The director commented on the path they took. Quote, "We had gone as far as we could into space. We needed a change of some sort back to the grassroots of Bond. We wanted to make the new film more of a thriller than a romp, without losing sight of what made Bond famous, its humor." End of quote. The story of For Your Eyes Only was originally written by Fleming for CBS cancelled Bond TV series in 1958. Due to the recession between 1980 and 1983, the production was forced to do the film with a far lower budget than prior films. This had the production to withhold the action sequences and the advanced gadget technology and instead focus on the character, the plot, and the overall suspense. Production designer Ken Adams was busy with Pennies from Heaven, so Peter Lamont was promoted to do the production design for the film. The producers were keen to return to the Cold War storylines. The new tax cuts in Britain allowed the production to take place in Pinewood, London. Some critics have claimed that the music for Your Eyes Only by Bill Conti is one of the best scores from the 1980s Bond films era. For Your Eyes Only was nominated at the Oscars for Best Original Song. Producer Albert R. Broccolii was honored with the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award. The reviews of the film were mixed. Some criticized the runtime to be far too long, and others praised the stunts in the ski sequence. Even Marvel Comics adapted the story into comics. In 1983, 2 years later, Octopus arrived, which is loosely based on Fleming's short story Octopussy and The Living Daylights. John Glenn directed the film, with Moore returning for a sixth time. The same year, a rival producer released Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery. The story follows a Soviet art thief that Bond is tracking down. It earned praise for its action sequences and humor, but Swede Maud Adams, the character, received criticism. Roger Moore was misdiagnosed during the filming of Octopussy, and after Maud Adams' doctor boyfriend checked him once more and declared that he was perfectly fine. Barbara Carrera turned down that she wanted to work with Connery in Never Say Never Again. Stuntman Martin Grace was in an accident when working on a train, making a hit to a pylon, and was hospitalized for months and achieved full recovery. The character Q participates for the first time in the series instead of helping behind the mission. The short story on which the film is based on was published in Playboy magazine between March and April in the 1966 edition and was the final story written by Fleming. Octopussy was the first film released by MGM or Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer after absorbing United Artists. Critic C.G. Henderson commented, "There isn't a moment in the movie when we worry for the slightest instant that anything could happen to save old James. Predictably, it doesn't. To kill Bond would be to lose the most bankable genre character ever brought to the movies." End quote. A View to a Kill is another James Bond that takes place in the Cold War. Christopher Walken plays Max Thorin, who wants to destroy Silicon Valley in California. This is Roger Moore's seventh and final appearance as a 00 agent in 1985. It was directed by John Glenn, written by Richard Maybaum, and the last one to feature Lois Maxwell as Moneypenny. 6 months later after the film's release, Moore announced his retirement from the role. At one point, David Bowie was set to play Thorin, who first accepted and then turned it down. Priscilla Presley was also asked to be cast as Stacey Sutton, but was replaced due to her obligation with Dallas. One of the striking criticism was that Moore was 57 at the time of production. Sean Connery commented that Bond should be 33 to 35 years old when playing the character. A critic from the New Yorker said, quote, "The James Bond series has had its bummers, but nothing before in the class of A View to a Kill. You go to a Bond picture expecting some style, or at least some flash, some lifts. You don't expect the dumb police car crashes you get here. You do see some ingenious daredevil thieves, but they are crowded together, and the way they are set up, they don't give you the irresponsible giddy tingle you're hoping for." End of quote. The overall reviews were mixed, cementing the age of Moore in the role. This final outing of Bond with Roger, the 14th of the main series, it done well at the box office, making it a commercial success.
And he's changed a lot, hasn't he? What do you think of the different sort of incantations of Bond that we've had over the years?
Well, in between each Bond, there are imitators. I'm not saying that Jason Bourne is an imitator, but there are films that are of the same genre. And the action became wilder. And so I think they started making Bond a little wilder. And along the way, it became more serious. It wasn't so jokey, which was probably was right for the times.
Do you think
I think today, Daniel Craig is an extraordinary Bond. He really is so tough.
Very
Moore's legacy of the character has been a mixed one. His films were more with humor, spectacle, and the extravagance you maybe didn't expect of a James Bond flick. His age was a striking problem, and the producers were keen to replace him earlier but couldn't find a thoughtful replacement, so they stuck the gun with Moore. He didn't have the charisma of Sean Connery, and it's easy to compare these two with each other. His interpretation of the agent seems to take the series in a different direction. His interpretation of the agent seems to take the series in a different direction, diving into new territories within the world of James Bond.